Well, we are back where it all began, the Hitogata settlement, as creepy as never, and it's as creepy as it ever was. We finally arrive at the Hitogata settlement after a full day of travel. It's my second time, but it's pretty tiring to come here without preparations. I get out of the bus and stretch. That's why I said we should wait. If we hadn't left right away, you would have changed your mind about coming, wouldn't you? I didn't even really want to come in the first place. Masaki picks up his luggage. That's right, you're staying at home this time, got it? I'm not paying for your lodging, too. I know. Masaki nods, disgruntled. You'll be staying at the shrine, Yayoi-san?
Yes, I hate climbing those stone steps, though.
Want us to walk you home?
It's okay, I'm used to it.
Yayoi smiles. Hurry up and go home to your family. I know. Masaki mutters, even more disgruntled, and walks off down the road toward the Hinagami residence.
I'll get going too then. Good night.
Yeah, be careful. I might be over there tomorrow, so say hi to your dad for me.
I will.
Yayoi bows her head and walks off down the snowy road after Masaki. Well then, I'll head to the Futami Inn, I suppose. I don't have a reservation, but somehow I doubt all the rooms are going to be full. Yeah, probably because it's a small town and there's pretty much nobody around, so yeah, probably won't be. Masaki arrives at the house, then stops. The snow has been cleared from the path so that he can reach the door, but it looks a lot sloppier than it did the last time he was here now that Yuka's gone. The only people in this house now are his grandfather, who's confined to his bed, and his grandmother, who's looking after him. Masaki takes a deep breath to steady himself, then enters the house. I'm home, he says, entering the living room. But there's no response. He's greeted only by the sound of the fire burning in the sunken hearth. They must be in his grandfather's room in the back, but Masaki can't work up the courage to head straight inside. He sets down his luggage and takes a seat by the sunken hearth. He pours some water into a teapot from the kettle on the pot hook and gets a teacup from the cupboard, pouring himself some tea. Mind getting some for me too? Masaki turns around at the voice behind him. Uncle? Yuzuru comes out from a room in the back. That was fast. He sits down next to Masaki. Yeah, we came as soon as Yayoi-chan told us. He sets the teacup down in front of Yuzuru. Thanks. How's Grandpa? He hasn't been conscious for the last few days. He's managed to hold out until now, but... the last few days. Then... he doesn't know about Karen. I just found out myself from a call from Tokyo, so I'm not really sure what's going on either. Did my dad call you? I didn't even know that Ayato knew about Karen. It's kind of interesting how he's not very much fazed by it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, so she's crazy, and she was killing people. Okay. Yeah, he apologized for not being able to come back. Yuzuru brings the tea to his lips. I told your grandma. She's pretty exhausted too, so she's resting now. I see. You must be tired too, right? Get to bed. I'll stay with your grandpa. I'm sure you're more tired than I am. I'll stay with him tonight. Alright. Yuzuru nods. What do I need to do? Just come get me if anything happens. Other than that, there's nothing else you can do. I understand. Masaki rises and heads to the room where his grandfather sleeps. His grandfather lies on a futon in the center of the room. He doesn't stir. It's hard to tell if he's even breathing. Such is the silence. Masaki sits down by his side and gazes at his sleeping face. He's certainly aged. He had the same impression when he saw him last month, but he feels it even more strongly now. He used to be so terrified of his grandfather. He was the absolute ruler of the Hinagami family and the entire Hitogata settlement. And now he lies unmoving on this tiny futon. Masaki feels the passage of time, whether he wants to or not. I'm sorry, Grandpa, but I'm not going to succeed this family. He says softly, though the words don't reach his grandfather. You will whether you want to or not, bitch. I'll force you to do it. I walk the snow-laden roads to the Futami Inn, where I just lodged a few weeks ago. From the looks of the settlement right now, I can't imagine it's full of guests. Sorry, but we've got no rooms available today. The mistress informs me as soon as I ask for a room. From the looks of it, you don't have any other guests, right? I don't think it's out of line to protest. I'll seriously freeze to death if I can't stay here. How rude. It's precisely because we have no other guests that you can't stay here. Wait, what? Why is that? Because we haven't cleaned the rooms. You can't stay in a room full of dust. I'd be perfectly fine with that, actually. Yeah, it's preferable to freezing to death. I'll have no place to sleep otherwise. If you don't mind the shed, I suppose you could stay there. Are you in the shed? And that would be less dusty than the rooms? I can't voice that retort, though. Grandma, stop that! Yu runs out from the back. You can't turn away a customer at this time of night. Hey, thanks for all your help earlier. I greet Yu now that she's here. It's you, Tokisaka-san. Welcome. Yu bows to me, then turns back to Yoshie. The room in the back should be fine for one person, so I'll take him there. Do as you please. We're not feeding him, though. Yoshie leaves, looking dissatisfied. Yeah, she couldn't have made it more obvious that she hates us if she tried. Please accept my deepest apologies. Yu puts her hands on the floor and bows deeply to me. No. I know it's rude of me to show up this late without a reservation. I take Yu's hands and stand her up. I'll take you to your room, then. The room she takes me to is freezing cold, but not particularly dusty. It seems perfectly suitable for lodging. Yu loads the hibachi up with charcoal. Yeah, I definitely feel like the old woman was lying to us. I'm sorry, but it'll take a while for the room to warm up. Yes, I know. I set down my things, hang my coat on a rack, and sit down in a legless chair. I'll bring you a change of clothes and a futon right away. I don't mind if you do that later. First, could I ask you to look at these? I take the photographs out of my bag and lay them out on the table. This is a festival a long time ago. Yu picks up a picture and stares at it. I received these from Akushiki Chizuru-san, who visited here before the war. It must be that festival then. Yu gazes nostalgically at the photos, but her expression suddenly clouds. Karen. So you know. Yes, I don't know the details, but I heard she was arrested. One of the pictures shows Karen, Meguri, and Yu together. So Ohina loved Rahito that much. Was she always like that? I suppose so. They were twins, and she always said she'd be with her brother longer than anyone else. Yeah, that's a definite red flag. Still, that's no reason to kill anyone. You're right. Yu nods and flips through the pictures. There are more pictures of the festival. Do you know this girl? I ask her, pointing to Satsuki in the photo. Yes, that's Satsuki-san, Aito-kun's fiancé, or so I heard. You knew that then? It's less that I knew and more that I heard my grandmother talking about it, about how we couldn't be rude to our guest, not when she would be marrying into the Hinagami family. To the settlement, was it just this guest who would marry into the Hinagami family? I'm not sure what you mean, but a guest always marries into the family, yes. That must be how they think about it. No one said that the Miko married into the family? Yu shakes her head at my question. I'd never thought about that, because they would never have asked me nor Meguri to marry into the family if that were the case. I see. She must think that there's nothing that connects her to the Miko. Oh? Yu pauses at a particular picture. Did you notice something? This picture. The picture she indicates is a profile shot of the Miko in a dimly lit area. Is this the Miko? It's hard to see because it's so dark, but it looks like the clothes Karen was wearing the other day. When was this taken? During the festival, I imagine. From the pictures before and after it, you can tell that much. Isn't this Satsuki-san? Is it? It's hard for me to tell given that it's not a very clear picture, not to mention that I've never met her. I pick up another picture with Satsuki in it and compare the two. They do look similar. It'd be easier to tell if I had another picture of her at this angle. But it's clear that Satsuki was the Miko from the fact that Chizuru didn't deny it. If that's the case, it wouldn't have been unusual for Satsuki to have offered the dance as the Miko. But it's strange. Yu shakes her head. What is? There's no way Satsuki-san could have worn this costume. Because she wasn't the Miko? But, no, that's not all. Yu interrupts me. After this, we watched the Mikos dance together with Satsuki-san. She was with us the whole time before that too. So there were two Satsuki-sans at the same time, huh? Maybe the film Chizuru's pictures were on was stolen to conceal that fact. Then the person who stole it would have to have been close to the Miko, someone who knew her secret. That's why it's strange. Maybe it's some kind of misunderstanding, but... Putting together all I've heard so far, I can think of a possibility if it isn't a misunderstanding. The relationship between Satsuki with Yu and her friends and the Miko is... same person, twins, or someone completely unrelated. I'm betting it's twins. Yeah, it has to be. They could have been twins. That's the most likely possibility if two of the same person were spotted at the same time. But Satsuki-san never mentioned anything about that. Yeah, because like I said, at first I thought that her talking, like that she was talking to herself, but I guess it's likely that she was talking to another person in the beginning of the game. And also because, remember, Inui said that the body they found, the person that was killed was a virgin. But that's not true because we know that Ayato slept with Satsuki. If she was supposed to be this guest, I doubt she would say that much about her identity. No one ever figured out where she came from, after all. I suppose you're right. In any event, it's clear that there was someone else in addition to Satsuki-san. Do you have proof of that? Yes. The girl who died was a virgin. Yeah. However, Masaki, Hinagami Ayato, supposedly made love to Satsuki. There's proof in the police's autopsy records that the girl that you and Ayato-kun met was different than the girl who died. Then it was the real Miko who died. That explains the marriage requests coming to you two, right? I have proof that Satsuki was the Miko too, though. How do I explain this contradiction? Then where did Satsuki-san go? That's what bothers me. If she was the Miko's body double, I don't understand why she had to disappear. It wouldn't be out of the question for a body double to carry on with the Miko's duties. Was there some reason why she couldn't? For example, because she didn't possess Hinagami blood. If that's the case, then she wouldn't have been the Miko's twin. I apologize for the odd question, but what's your blood type, Futami-san? Huh? It's A. Oh no. Don't tell me she's related too. I see. That would fit the conditions. Yeah, but she was a marriage candidate too, though, so I guess that makes sense. If she is related to them by blood. I can't take the next step and ask her about her father. Yeah, I don't think you should either. That'd be even more disturbing. It's like, okay, yeah, so she's also your sister. The morning of coming of age day. Not that it's got anything to do with me. I came of age 10 years ago, and holidays mean nothing to me with my current job. It just means work is more annoying when government offices are closed. Complaining about it out here in the mountains won't solve anything, though. I stand at the crossroads in the middle of the settlement. Before me are the stone steps that lead to the Shigusa Shrine. The Hinagami estate is to my right. The Kuriya Clinic is to my left. First, I'll go to the Kuriya Clinic and talk to them. Of the peculiar people in this settlement, they're the easiest to talk to. I ring the bell and wait a little while. Well, if it isn't... The door opens and so, the director peeks out. Hello, it's Tokisaka. I imposed on you a few weeks ago as well. Ah, right, that's right. It's so hard to remember these things when you get old. Well, I can't do much in the way of hospitality, but come in. Thank you. I follow So inside. He takes me to a waiting room and offers me a chair, so I sit. My son's on a house call, so I'm holding down the fort. Is he with Hinagami Hideyomi-san? It's not looking good this time. There's nothing you can do about old age. Death could be coming for me any day now myself. He looks pretty healthy for his age, if you ask me. Did you come to ask about his condition? No, I'm here to ask about something that occurred much earlier. The girl who was here in this settlement before the war, Satsuki-san. I'm getting so bad at remembering things lately. Funny, I often hear that old people remember the past much clearer than the present. Well, that is what they say, isn't it? So sighs, as if giving in. What would you like to know? Did she have any checkups while she was here? I'd like to see records from a physical or something of that sort. And what do you plan to do with that information? I want to destroy the obsession that haunts the Hinagami family. No, that haunts this whole settlement. Obsession, huh? So sighs. Ugh. I won't deny that everyone here, beginning with the Hinagamis, is captive of old traditions even in this new age after the war has ended. Could I ask you to do it while Hideyomi's still alive? I imagine that's his one regret. I promise it. Oh, that's a huge promise to make, considering he's at death's door pretty much, and he could probably die any day. So, yeah, hopefully we solve this really fucking soon. Follow me then. So stands up and opens a door leading farther inside. He takes me to the examination room, where I sit. I think we had the old chart somewhere around here. So starts looking through the files on a shelf. How long did Satsuki-san stay here? A few months. At the end of the year, in December, someone from the Shigusa family brought her here. Then she died the following March. Here it is. So takes out some files and hands them to me. Was she ill at all? There's nothing like that in these files, but my son seemed to think she was mentally unstable or some such. Is that this? I read what's written in the file. Exhibits signs of dependency on others. I guess she talked to herself in her room a lot, facing the mirror and conversing with herself. That could be a sign of schizophrenia. My son was worried about that too. That wasn't the truth, however. I point at the part of the chart that lists Shigusa Satsuki's blood type. Type AB. What about it? The body of the girl who was supposedly Satsuki-san had type A blood. Her genotype was AA. So who's this Satsuki-san? So frowns. I have additional proof that there were two Satsuki-sans as well. So who are these two really? Well, remember that we also found out that the Satsuki's real name was Ayako? What if one girl was Ayako and one girl was Satsuki? Or was Satsuki even the real name of either of them? I don't know. That's still something I'm wondering about. I show So the pictures from the festival. One was with Aito-kun and his friends, and the other was wearing the costume of the Miko. Satsuki-san was with them when they watched the Mikos dance too. One Satsuki-san was on the stage while the other one watched. There's no other way to explain it. They could have been fraternal twins and had different blood types, but their mother would have had to have been type AB as well. What was that? Mendel's laws? Hinagami Rika-san's blood type was AO, correct? There's no need for me to answer if you know that much. So sighs the words. Courteous So-san, how much do you know? I am a doctor, but I don't know anything more than my position requires, though I'm just a quack who can't act on the illnesses I see. A doctor's position. Can I interpret that to mean you're aware of the bloodline of the Hinagami family? But So doesn't respond to my question. I'm guessing the Satsuki-san with the type AA blood who was murdered was Shizuru-san and Rika-san's daughter, the true Miko. And Aito-kun and Karen-san are the children of Rika-san and Yuzuru-san. Those two couldn't have had type O blood unless both of their parents were type AO. But the Satsuki-san whom we've established was type AB. I don't know about her. They look alike in the pictures, so I'm sure they're relatives, but if type B blood is involved, then the Shigusas probably are too. Finding her might clear that up, but... My lips are sealed. So shrugs. Now that the Shigusa's old man is dead and Hideyomi's about to join him, I'm the only one left from the old generation. Wouldn't this obsession be taken care of if I brought it with me to the grave? I wish I could agree with you, but there's still someone I'd like to save. The Hinagami kid? I don't care about him. If he wants saving, I'd tell him to do something about it himself. That'd be nice. But I can't say that to the woman who must be out there somewhere. The type AB Satsuki-san, whose existence I'm still not even sure about. I've learned a little about the Satsuki who died, that is, the type AA girl. But as for the other Satsuki... Unfortunately, I've got nothing for you there. So shakes his head. It wasn't as if he was hiding something. It seems like he truly doesn't know. I forgot about Mendel's laws long ago. Now that's a lie. Why do you think so? You didn't seem surprised when I explained the possibility of a second Satsuki-san to you earlier. A doctor would notice the discrepancies in their blood types right away. I'm sure you hid that fact for the sake of the Hinagami and Shigusa families, but wasn't it also for your son-in-law? He would have been turning a blind eye to it if you consider their bloodlines. It would have created a big problem if the people knew that the father of the Hinagami family's heir had married into the Kuria family. You give me too much credit. So shrugs. They carry Hinagami blood, and now Ri carries Kuria. That's good enough. I suppose you're right. All I can do is agree for the time being. There's very little chance that the Hinagami family's blood, their incestuous marriages, will continue on. Will that mean the end of this obsession? Let Hideyomi go in peace. He's suffered all this time. But you just told us that we should try to get rid of his obsession and just so that he doesn't go with any regrets. Now you're like, let him go in peace. Don't do anything. I understand. I mean, hopefully if he does, if we do solve the case, he will be able to go in peace. After leaving the Kuria clinic, I cut across Kamihina and head to the Hinagami residence. I'll end all of the obsessions surrounding the Miko here. Oh, Tokisaka-san. You just had to ruin my resolve with that appearance, didn't you? I'm not sure what you were expecting. You were the one who came here. Misaki pouts. What are you doing outside anyway? I was shoveling. There's no one here to do it anymore now that Yuka-san's gone. Now I notice the shovel sticking out of the snow next to him. Need a hand? I hear myself saying all of a sudden. You probably shouldn't. You'll hurt your back if you're not used to it. You haven't done it in over 10 years yourself, have you? I remembered how right away. Misaki picks up the shovel and puts his back into moving the snow. Wanna try? Nah, I better not. I won't be able to get anything done if I throw my back out. Okay then, old man. Are you planning on doing something? You could say that. I raise my head and look up at the Hinagami mansion. How's your grandpa? I went and saw him this morning, but he hasn't regained consciousness. His pulse seems to be dropping, and he might not even make it to tonight. Misaki hangs his head. I see. You mind if I pay him a visit? I feel like you're just gonna kill him quicker if you just be like, hey, if you just come up to him and are like, hey, I know everything, by the way. Go ahead. I doubt he'll be awake, though. Might as well, huh? An old man lies on a futon in the middle of the room. His skin is sallow, his eyes sunken, and it's difficult to tell whether or not he's even breathing. He was looking rather haggard the last time I was here, but he's much worse now. Yuzuru sits beside him. Hello. You came all this way? Yes, I still have unfinished business here. Yuzuru doesn't ask what it is. Well, you can clearly see how my father's doing. I don't know what you're planning on doing, but I imagine you have some idea. You did help me out. So that's why you had me send the telegraph to your address. The police being involved was a lie after all. It wasn't a lie. We've discovered the identity of the body. And you want to throw it in my dad's face? Yes, that was my intent. I glance at Hideyomi. It'll be difficult like this. Is Mariko-san here? I believe my grandmother's resting in her room. Then bring her. No, this isn't something to talk about next to someone's deathbed. I'll bring her to the living room then. Misaki stands up and leaves the room. If you identified her from that list, then I imagine it's exactly as you think, Yuzuru-san. Of course, I assume you knew long before that. I haven't been informed of anything since joining the Kuria family. Yuzuru shakes his head. What about when you were a part of the Hinagami family, then? The same sort of thing has been going on for generations, hasn't it? My brother and I are both sick of those traditions. We couldn't tell our dad that, of course. Yuzuru glances at Hideyomi. Shizuru-san did sound like he didn't care much for the Hinagami customs. He told Ayato-kun to live freely, even. Insular societies like this one are all doomed to be destroyed one day. Or did you come to destroy it? Culture should be respected, but it shouldn't repress individuals. That's what people believe nowadays. I see. I don't think my old lady will understand that logic, though. Is it because Mariko-san was the Miko? I can't answer that question, but if I had to say, I'd say it's because she's lived her life doing nothing but protecting the culture of this settlement. That's exactly what I mean when I refer to the people whose freedom has been stolen. It's pointless giving them freedom now. It's difficult to let go of the things that have supported you for so long, but I must force them to. The door opens and Misaki peeks in. Tokisaka-san. Yeah, I guess we're all ready now. I stand up and bow my head to Yuzuru. I'll remain here with my dad. Alright, we'll leave him to you. Oh shit, here we go, the big reveal. He's just gonna gather everyone together and be like, I know you're all keeping secrets, and I know you're all responsible for this. I have the proof. I have the receipts. Masaki's grandmother Mariko sits in the seat of honor in the living room. Sorry to intrude. Indeed. There's no vitality in her face at all. She's probably exhausted from nursing her husband. What do you want? I'm sure you've heard what's happened in Tokyo. Karen. Mariko sighs. I can't understand why she would do such a thing. Oh, I think you can. Really? I thought you'd be one of the few who could. And what makes you think that? When Kiramura Yuka-san was murdered, you took a piece of evidence, the clay doll, from the scene and destroyed it. I assumed you did that because you understood Karen-san's actions. All I said was that the curse had not occurred. She replies firmly. You said that the curse couldn't occur because there wasn't a Miko, right? Precisely. In other words, Karen-san wasn't the Miko. She couldn't become the Miko. Can I interpret it that way? The Miko comes to us from heaven. It is not something one can or cannot become. Mariko shakes her head. She intends to insist on this obstinately, I see. I'll have to change my method of attack then. Hinagami Pharmaceuticals seems to be in trouble now after Karen-san's arrest. What does the Hinagami family think of that? I think it's a serious situation, but one that will only affect Hinagami Pharmaceuticals, not the family, she says, as if they're completely different entities. As if Hinagami Pharmaceuticals doesn't hold up the entire framework of the family. Which is why I would like Ayato-san to begin preparing to succeed the family as soon as possible. Mariko turns her gaze to Masaki. He looks away. Considering you've honored the Hinagami tradition so closely all this time, are you truly okay with that? What are you trying to say? Mariko turns to me. Ayato-kun can't just marry anyone, can he? Since Karen-san was killing the women who fit the condition. That's... Mariko's voice quivers a tiny bit. Even they were just a compromise, though, because it is the Miko who must marry into the Hinagami family. Mariko-san, you, and Hinagami Rika-san as well, worked as the Miko in the past, did you not? There's no need for the girl who marries into the Hinagami family to be the Miko. I wonder if she realizes that those words confirm the Miko's marriage into the family more than anything else. She should have simply denied that the Miko married into the family. What's most important is that she possesses Hinagami blood. That's why it makes sense that you chose those women. Mariko doesn't respond. Karen-san, she wanted to become the Miko. If she were able, she could have been together with her brother. Like you and Hideyomi-san. This is a gamble. I have no information supporting the connection between Hideyomi and Mariko. So you're just betting it all on a bluff, pretty much. Karen cannot become the Miko. Because she couldn't bear children? I think that would support the idea that the Miko marries into the family, though. It doesn't really. But Mariko remains silent. Ever since I heard about this settlement's traditions, I always wondered about the Miko, about where she comes from and where she goes. But it's a rather simple trick. Daughters born to the Hinagami family are moved somewhere else where they're raised as the Miko until they return back here. I haven't confirmed it with them yet, but I imagine it's the Shigusa Shrine who raises the Miko. That's how you created the sacred existence of the Miko and how you've used it to rule the settlement. Wait a second. Masaki butts in. If you're right, then Satsuki... Yeah... You committed accidental incest there. The Satsuki-san who was found murdered had type AA blood. There's a good chance she was Shizuru-san and Rika-san's daughter. I suppose that would have made her your older sister. Since Ayato and Karen are twins, I doubt she's their younger sister. Masaki hangs his head. I still have some information I haven't given him yet. You said your name was Tokisaka-san. Mariko looks at me. Why are you trying to expose these things? I came here to destroy the obsessions haunting the Hinagami family. I must protect the Hinagami family. Confining young girls in order to continue on the Hinagami bloodline isn't something you can continue doing in this day and age. Even if that may be so, we cannot abandon the traditions we've upheld for all this time. They're evil traditions, and I just can't stand the thought of the girl who was caught up in your stupid traditions. I want to find that girl who was toyed with by the Hinagami traditions, the other Satsuki-san. The other Satsuki? Misaki raises his head. Listen, Madoka-san, the Satsuki-san who was murdered, your granddaughter, had type A blood. But there's another Satsuki-san, one who stayed here and had a physical examination at the clinic with type AB blood. What are you? Madoka sounds truly shaken for the first time today. I'm surprised to find that you didn't know. I had assumed the people in power all conspired together. But this must have been known only to an even smaller group among them. Why is that? Are you sure you've never heard anything about this? Was it another of Shizuru's daughters? It sounds like Shizuru-san really got around. Other than Kiramura Yuka-san, who was murdered by mistake, Shizuru-san confirmed that the rest of the victims all had Hinagami blood. That's right. When I asked Hideyomi-san about it before, he said that Yuka-san was unqualified to marry into the family. At that time, I thought it was because she was Shizuru-san's child and thus unable to join the family, but it was the opposite. She couldn't marry into the family precisely because she was unrelated. This is completely contrary to the rest of society's common sense. I see. There is a possibility that the other Satsuki-san was Shizuru-san's child as well. For the child of an AA father to have AB blood, her mother would have to have had either BB, BO, or AB blood. It would be difficult to figure out who the mother was in that case. Could it be? Misaki says after remaining silent with a pensive look on his face this whole time. What is it? Could the other Satsuki-san have been Ayako? Ayako? I told you about it before, right? The name carved into the chest in the storehouse at the Shigusa Shrine. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The one hiding the stairs to the cellar. Saya-san said before that Ayako was Satsuki. Now I think that makes sense. That'd be the perfect place to hide Satsuki-san's body double. We might be able to learn something if we ask Kensei-san, since we have proof that she really existed now. Let's go to the Shigusa Shrine. I stand up and bow my head to Madoka. I'm sorry for all the commotion. However, expect me back soon. Madoka glares at me without responding. Well then, if you'll excuse us. Yeah, I'm guessing this is where we're going to find all the answers. I give Misaki a rough rundown of what I've figured out so far as we climb the stone steps to the Shigusa Shrine. Then it's true that there were two Satsukis. I bet the one you met with was the AB Satsuki, the one who wasn't found dead. Of course, it's entirely possible you met both of them. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. How the hell are we going to be able to tell them apart? Like, which one was the one Ayato was meeting the most? Which one was the one that he actually had feelings for? I mean, because they both act exactly the same, so it's like, who is who? Misaki stops before the torii. Honestly, I have no idea, but when I found Satsuki's body here, it was really exactly the same as it was when I met her. I couldn't tell them apart. You can't blame yourself for that. Since one of them was a body double, I imagine they were trained that way. I give Misaki a clap on the shoulder. So the one who died here was my sister. I guess so. There are no traces left of the incident. Yet we still press our hands together in front of the torii, praying for the murdered Satsuki to find peace in the next world. Huh? We find Yayoi in her school uniform in front of the shrine.
What are you two doing here?
Is your dad around?
Oh, yes, I believe he's in the shrine office.
Yayoi points at the single-story building. Doing some sweeping? There's a bamboo broom stuck into the pile of snow next to her.
Yeah, not that we're gonna get any visitors, though,
Yayoi says with a bitter smile. People used to come here for stuff other than the festivals.
It's those darn stairs. Everyone in the settlement got old and none of them come up here anymore.
Well, it's not easy to do in the winter. I've lost track of how many times I've almost slipped and fallen today alone.
We get even less visitors now that Grandpa's passed too, though we do get regular donations for Tamaguchi fees from the Hinagamis, which helps.
A shrine's income is dependent on its visitors, huh? Maybe I should donate something too.
We have donation records over there.
Yeah, I remember. I wrote in it the last time I was here. I head for the reception desk in the shrine office. Mia was in here last time, but today it's unmanned.
Wait 1 second. Was it this one?
Yayoi brings out the donation records. Flipping through the pages, I find that the 100 yen I donated the last time I was here is still the final entry. So they didn't even get any donations on New Year's? I wonder if it'll stay blank until March. I flip back through the records to last March, where I find an entry for a Tamaguchi fee donated by the Hinagami family. You have festivals every year, right?
Yeah, we do. Though I wonder if those are getting smaller every year too. They used to be bigger before the war, right?
Yayoi seeks agreement from Masaki. Yeah, there were a bunch of stands and such.
We don't have any of that now.
I glance at Yayoi's pouting face out of the corner of my eye while I flip through the donation records. I get to the pre-war records with a few more pages. In the March of the year when the war started, they donated actual Tamaguchi instead of fees. I confirmed this a few days ago as well. They donated 1,000 yen for Tamaguchi fees the year before that. Adjusting for inflation, that'd be a little more than $1 million today, enough to buy a few new cars. For a time when a month's salary would have been something like 50 yen, I guess that's how powerful Hinagami Pharmaceuticals was. But the issue isn't the amount. Looks like they donate actual Tamaguchi in years where there's a Miko. Maybe because those are special festivals. When was the last time there was a Miko before this one? I think it was from 1897 to 1903 and 1921 to 1924. Last time was the only one since the Showa started. Right at the end of Taisho, huh? I look at the beginning of the record, but it begins with Tamaguchi fees donated in the March of 1927. Do you mind if I look at the older donation records? I ask Yayoi, who's been listening to our exchange curiously.
I think we still have them. Did you want to look at March of the first year of Showa?
No, before that. And there wasn't a March in the first year of Showa. Since era names in Japan correspond to the reigning emperor, the first year of Showa begins in December when Hirohito assumed the throne.
Really?
I guess that's what you call the generational gap. Though it's not like I have any memories of the Taisho period. After all, it was already Showa 3 weeks after I was born.
I think this is it.
Yayoi brings us some old records. They're from the Taisho period. I open them right up and check, finding that Tamaguchi were only donated once in 1922. There isn't a Miko every year. It says Tamaguchi fees in 1921, 1923, and 1924. What about before this, the stuff from Meiji?
I don't see those here.
Yayoi shakes her head. Why were Tamaguchi donated only in 1922? Masaki, was there a year that Tamaguchi were donated other than the one in the newer records? Well, I've been looking, but I haven't found one yet. What year was Zaizen Keiko murdered? I think that was 1929. Wait, you don't mean... It's a possibility. I think I heard that the curse that occurred in Taisho was in 1922. If Tamaguchi are donated in the years in which the curse occurs, then that must portend it. That also directly links the Hinagami family to it. It's not there. Masaki sighs. The Hinagami family only donated Tamaguchi fees in 1929. The Miko was already gone by this year too. Wait, if I'm not mistaken, the Taisho Miko was your mother, Hinagami Rika, and she killed herself 2 days after the festival in 1929. I guess that makes her a pretty likely suspect. I guess so. Masaki scratches his head. I don't really feel anything about that. I don't remember my mother at all. There's nothing you can do about that. But by this time, she wasn't the Miko anymore, and the Tamaguchi that probably signaled a curse weren't donated. I was already born then too. I wonder if that's when the Miko retires.
I don't really get what's going on.
You don't need to. This is something that shouldn't be continued nowadays.
Right.
Well, that's enough of that for now. I was going to make a donation, wasn't I? I take out a 100 yen coin from my wallet and write in Tamaguchi fee 100 yen.
You can't donate this.
Why not?
It's a toy.
What? Yayoi thrusts out the 100 yen coin to me. This is real money just minted last month, actually.
Are you making fun of me because I'm from the country? 100 yen only comes in bills.
Masaki, you got a 100 yen bill? Yeah, I do, but... Masaki takes out a 100 yen bill.
This is another phony. The 100 yen bill has a Prince Shokoto on it, not this bearded guy. I'm pretty sure it changed to Itagaki Taisuke around 4 years ago. How long does it take this stuff to get out here? Yayoi. Kensei emerges from the back. Oh, Dad, these people are terrible. They're trying to donate fake money. It looks like my daughter's been causing you trouble. I'm terribly sorry. Kensei bows his head to us, ignoring Yayoi. No, it's no trouble, really. Wait, what? Is this real then, Dad? You've been to Tokyo now. I thought you'd have seen it. Kensei sighs. Hello, Kensei-san. I'd like to ask you some questions. It looks like you were just investigating something as well. Kensei glances at the donation records on the reception desk. Very well, it's cold out, so please come inside. You're excused, Yayoi. Oh, okay. Please come this way. Kensei leads us into the shrine office. We're taken to a room with a wooden floor and sit down on some cushions. Let me get straight to the point. Masaki immediately faces Kensei and asks, who exactly is Ayako? Where did you hear that name? When I returned after the war, I found it written in the storehouse, but when we were here last month, the cellar had been filled in and the board with the carving on it had been replaced. Our theory is that she was Satsuki-san's body double. She lived in that storehouse, did she not? Kensei looks down and sighs at my words. Looks like you've done your research. Yep, though it's a double-edged sword that will expose his crimes as well. I point to Masaki. It's got to be rough for him, but Ayato-kun has committed no crime. Kensei-san. As I stated before, Saya-san died of illness. This is something that cannot be changed. Unlike the other cases, the statute of limitations hasn't passed on this one. If you find proof, he can still be held accountable for his crimes. Nothing that could be considered proof remains. Any criminal can be found guilty if he confesses to his crimes, though there can be issues with that as well. It's already over. He seems intent on continuing to treat Sai's death as one from illness. Well, whatever. If it comes to it, he can just turn himself in. I don't want it to come to that, of course. Ayako was Saya-san's daughter. Kensei begins. Saya-san's? Wasn't she unmarried? Oh, wait a minute. What if... Oh, that's right, yeah. I'm pretty sure she was having some kind of affair with Shizuru, because you remember they were having those, like, private conversations and stuff. It seemed like they were up to something. Yes, Saya-san's job was to look after the Miko. The eldest daughter of the Hinagami family was raised here, correct? You could say that. Hinagami Rika's eldest daughter was Satsuki. Saya-san's daughter was named Ayako. Satsuki and Ayako. Satsuki and Satsuki are pronounced the same way but written with different characters. When Masaki originally discovered the name Ayako, it was written in katakana and he only knew the pronunciation. But here the characters are finally revealed. The Aya is the same character as the Aya in Ayato's name and is pronounced Ri in Rika's name, and Ayato's nickname and Ayato's nickname Rihito as well. God, that's kind of confusing actually. Kensei takes out some paper and writes the names down. And the name of the guest who encompassed both of them was Satsuki. He writes Satsuki underneath their names. Pronounced the same as the Miko, Satsuki-san, huh? That backs up my theory about Ayako the body double being nothing but the shadow of Satsuki the Miko. Was her father my dad as well? No, Saya-san and Chizuru-san never got along very well, you see. Oh, so am I wrong about that? Kensei shakes his head. Huh? Then, from what I've heard, Ayako-san's father was Hideyomi-san. Huh? What? Why? Masaki's speechless. Saya-san idolized Rika-san, you see. She had taken care of Rika-san the whole time she stayed here as the Miko. Was she jealous of Shizuru-san when he took Rika-san away from her? Perhaps. She shared Hideyomi-san's bed, had a daughter with him, and named her Ayako, using a character from Rika-san's name besides. I look over at Masaki, Ayato, next to me. Is it a coincidence that his name shares the same character, or... It was quite a bold yet careful plan, though. I wonder what she would have done if she had a boy. Did they look so similar that no one could tell them apart because they were raised in the same environment? They must have been born at around the same time as well. In other words, Saya had this plan even before Rika first got pregnant. It was my mother-in-law who suggested raising her as a body double, it seems. I hear she did something similar herself. She must have thought of it because she was the sister of the Miko 2 generations ago, Hinagami Maruko. But there's something I just can't wrap my head around. When Satsuki-san died, why didn't they make Ayako-san the new Miko? Masaki asks Kensei. They couldn't. Kensei shakes his head. There must have been a reason she couldn't have been used as a true body double. I've got a general idea about that reason too. Ayako died too, Ayako was gone, Ayako wasn't qualified to be the Miko. She wasn't qualified apparently. Was Ayako-san lacking some qualification to become the Miko? Well, the circumstances of her birth were a secret, but considering she inherited Hideyomi-san's blood, I couldn't say she was unqualified. Then what reason could there have been? Wasn't it because Ayako-san disappeared? Masaki starts. Saya-san never said anything about what happened to Ayako-san afterward. I suppose she could have been hiding her, but was it actually that she didn't know? If Ayako-san disappeared at some point without Saya-san's knowledge, then obviously she wouldn't have been able to say anything about what had happened to her. You don't think Ayako-san was dead too? Well, which is it, Kensei-san? I don't know. She could be. Kensei is evasive. So she may not necessarily be dead, but they don't know her whereabouts. There was a police investigation here when Satsuki-san died, but they didn't find Ayako-san. That was because she was no longer here, was it not? Furthermore, Saya-san denied murdering Satsuki-san to Ayato-kun. If she was telling the truth, then I imagine Ayato killed Satsuki and fled, Ayato switched with Satsuki, Ayato was killed with Satsuki. Yeah, she must have been killed. There's a possibility that Ayako-san was killed with Satsuki-san. That storehouse had a cellar that would have been a perfect place to hide a body. And now that it's been filled in, it's impossible to investigate it. Then who killed them? The whole Shigusa family, including Saya-san, had alibis. They were all at the Hinagami house with Inui-san that day. They should have come to the conclusion that none of them could have committed the crime. Though it's possible that Ayako-san could have been killed later, since we haven't found her body, we have no idea when she would have been killed. But then, wouldn't that mean Ayako-san had killed Satsuki-san? I don't know what happened to Ayako-san afterward, but he may be right. So what happened to Ayako-san afterward? I turned to Kensei. She hid inside the chest in the storehouse, Kensei mutters. Inside? In the cellar? No, just inside the chest, or so I heard. From there, she watched Saya-san dismember Satsuki-san. Oh, so Saya was the one that did that. So she watched the entire time as the limbs of a girl who looked exactly like her were severed. There was an uproar and I decided to take Ayako-san away from the settlement. Since Inui-san was here, it looked like we wouldn't be able to avoid the police getting involved. So you acknowledge that Ayako-san killed Satsuki-san. Well, she didn't seem to be sure of it herself. She said something about fearing Satsuki-san consuming her. Consuming her? Does that mean she was about to be killed? She might be able to get away with self-defense then. May I ask something? What is it? Did you want to protect Ayako-san? Or did you want to protect the customs of the settlement? I simply wanted to protect the future of my family, Kensei says with a sigh. Which is why you tried to make it as though none of it had ever happened. Ayako-san murdering Satsuki-san, and Ayato-kun murdering Saya-san as well. I suppose you're right. I have no excuses. So filling in the storehouse cellar was part of that, I suppose. Yes, it was a place full of Saya-san's delusions. She adored Rika-san so much that she even dug up her grave. If possible, it would probably be nice to dig up her limbs and return them to her original grave, but it might be best to just leave things as they are there. I don't want to go to the trouble of digging up Saya's obsessions after they've finally been buried. Masaki's the one who will suffer the most for it after all. Was it the Korea clinic who decided that Saya-san died of illness? I believe that was my father-in-law and Hideyomi-san's decision. I don't know if the examination was done by So-san or Yuzuru-san, however. If the two leaders of the settlement demanded it, neither one of them would have a choice about going along with it, though. Tokisaka-san, could you arrest me, please? I'm not with the police, I say to Kensei, interrupting him. If you'd like to be arrested, feel free to go to the police, but the statute for suppression of evidence is 3 years. It passed a long time ago. Besides, family members who cover up for relatives are exempt from that law. Then, if you regret your crimes and tell us the truth, I think that's enough personally. For instance, where Aiko-san ended up after you took her away from here. That's what we came here to find out in the first place. I asked someone in Tokyo to facilitate Aiko-san's escape, but after that, there was the war and everything. I have no idea where she is now. Well, that clears things up. Whom did you entrust her to? A peddler who often visited the settlement. He was someone I could trust, but he later died in an air raid. Now, I was about to say, maybe it was that guy from the Blessed Congregation he entrusted her to. And you have no idea what happened to her after that. Unfortunately not. Kensei shakes his head. I don't want to believe this, but the door opens. Dad! What's the fuss about, Yayoi? I told you not to bother us. There was a phone call from the Hinagamis saying the Grandmasters regained consciousness. Grandpa? Masaki stands. Yes, they said to call everyone. The three of us all look at each other. Let's go. I suppose so. None of us say so, but I think we all know these will be Hideyomi's final moments. Maybe he'll explain everything. Masaki and Tokisaka bring Kensei and Miya back to the Hinagami residence. Oh, Ayato-kun. What's happened? I don't know. All I've heard is that Grandpa's awake and has something he wants to say. This might be his last ounce of strength, so mutters. Masaki has the same feeling. He sat by his grandfather's side all last night and never saw any sign of him regaining consciousness. He wasn't even sure whether the man had been breathing or not. He spent the night checking for the faintest of pulses over and over again. I wonder what he'll say, Masaki asked Tokisaka. How should I know? I suppose you're right. Well, I've got a pretty good idea though. You think he'll talk about me after all? Be prepared for the worst. Right. Masaki hangs his head and lays his eyes on the donation records Tokisaka's holding. Why'd you bring that? Because I've got something to say to him too. We promised to speak again the last time I was here. When the heck did you do that? His grandmother Mariko sits in the living room. Ayato-san, sit down there. Mariko points to a spot before the sunken hearth. Masaki sits down obediently. Your grandfather has called for you. Show him respect. I will. Masaki responds obediently. And his grandmother moves her gaze to behind him. Tokisaka-san, was it? You have been summoned as well. I'm aware. Though I do not wish to allow this. His grandmother stands. Come this way. With her urging, Masaki and Tokisaka enter the room where his grandfather rests. Yuzuru sits beside the futon Hideyomi lies upon. Everyone. Yuzuru gives his seat to Mariko. They've come. When Mariko informs him, Hideyomi opens his eyes. His eyeballs protrude oddly as they turn to Masaki. Ayato. There's some pluck in his voice, but it's clear that he's forcing it. Grandpa. He would never have allowed himself to be called that before, but Hideyomi finds no fault with it now. It makes his weakened state seem even more pronounced. Tokisaka, So, Kensei, and Miya sit down a short ways away. After a moment's hesitation, Masaki sits down next to the futon. Ayato, do you intend to succeed the Hinagami family? I do not. Masaki's response is immediate. He could have lied to reassure his grandfather, of course, but he didn't. He was afraid that if he'd lied here, the lie would gradually become truth. But more than anything, he wanted to convey his true feelings to his grandfather. Even now, you insist. I see. Hideyomi's short response cuts off his grandmother's enraged exclamation. Do as you please. I disinherit you. I understand. Thank you for everything you've done for me. He gets into a better position, then bows deeply before his grandfather. He hasn't been back in over 10 years, but they'd still taken care of him prior. No. Is that intruder from the other day present? Right here.
Tokisaka comes forward. I see you made good on your promise to come back before I drop dead. I'm terribly sorry to bother you again, but there's something I need to hear from you. I suppose I can't just take it with me to hell. Hideyomi sighs. Ugh. His dry lips tremble. Very well. Dear. Maruko tries to stop him, but Hideyomi's will is iron as he stares toward Tokisaka. Thank you. Let me get right to the point. Please tell me the truth about Hinasama. What do you plan to do with the information? I just want to save him, the old inspector who's been enslaved by an obsession for decades now. Masaki can tell he must mean Inspector Inui. Him, huh? His grandfather mutters, himself understanding too. It's been a long time since he started coming here. The first time, was it at the beginning of Showa? When Zaizen Keiko was murdered then. That was 1929, so about 30 years ago. It's no wonder I've gotten so old. Let's leave Zaizen-san's death for later. What I'd like to hear about is those killed for the curse. Kamizono-san and Megure-san died because of... Tokisaka's hand cuts him off before he can finish with Karen. Masaki glances at his grandfather, but he shows no reaction. He may not even know that Karen was responsible for those crimes. Considering Yayoi, who came to tell them about Hideyomi's condition, only found out when she arrived in Tokyo, it's perfectly possible that the information hadn't reached Hideyomi yet. The curses that occurred here were most recently the ones that claimed Kawase-san and the aforementioned Zaizen-san. I wasn't able to get a hold of any info regarding previous cases, however. Tokisaka takes out an old photograph. This clay doll was discovered in the bodies of the victims. It's Hinasama, isn't it? My eyes see nothing. Masaki assumes he means he has no intention of looking. He soon realizes that that's a mistake, however. It seems my eyes have lost the ability to sense light. What about your ears? They've been bad for a while now. It's a little muffled, but I can still hear. Let's continue then. All of the victims shared this replica of Hinasama that was cut out of their bodies, right, Ayato-kun? Well, it has to be, right? A clay doll in the shape of a fetus. Right. That's how the crimes were easily identified as Hinasama's curse and attributed to worshipping a false idol. Tokisaka takes out a new photo, one of the clay dolls found at the scene of a murder committed by Karen. We found the same thing at the crimes committed at the end of the last year. This was not the curse, but merely crimes committed imitating it. Something struck me as odd here. Ayato-kun, had you ever seen the Hinasama enshrined in this house? Like I told you before, I never so much as looked inside the household shrine. That's right, he had been disciplined not to by his grandparents. Right. That's why it was curious to me. When the curse occurs in the settlement, how do the people here know what Hinasama looks like? He can't continue. In order to worship a fake one, you'd have to know what the real one looks like, wouldn't you? The heir of the Hinagami family, Masaki, didn't know, so how could anyone else? No, when the Miko danced at the festival, she used a clay doll. It was crumbled right away though. He heard Karen had made it. That was the festival just before Kawase-san died, right? Or does that ritual happen every year? No, I don't think Saya-san used one in the festivals where she danced as a stand-in, did she? Masaki looks to his grandmother, but she doesn't respond. There's no prophecy where a stand-in dances, so naturally, none of the tools for one are used. Kensei answers instead. It's impossible then. No one could accurately replace a clay doll they saw for a moment during a single festival. And Tokisaka looks to Hideyomi. When the Miko offers her dance, it's to receive prophecy for Hinasama, to decide who is cursed, correct? That's always been the scenario, yes. The word comes clearly from Hideyomi's lips. It'd be reversed then. Even if you saw the clay doll in the festival and thought about worshipping it, the curse would have already been decided then. Couldn't she have seen it in a previous festival? The Miko offered dances at the end of the Taisho period too. You think she made her own after seeing one 30 years ago? That's too much time. The premise is that people make them on their own, secretly, right? Tokisaka holds up 2 photos of Hinasama. These 2, and the ones from last month, are all too similar. The shape, size, material, it's clear that they're all identical. That's odd, don't you think? You mean the same person made all of them? Masaki asks, though he knows the answer. I don't know if it was the same person, but it's obvious that whoever made them knew about the real one. I thought perhaps the Miko could be making them, but they'd be real in that case, wouldn't they? I'd guess someone from the Shigusa or Hinagami family makes them, and it's all set up to make it look like the curse. Am I right, Hideyomi-san? It is strange that they know what it looks like when we've never shown anyone, isn't it? Some air escapes from Hideyomi's mouth. Masaki thinks it might have been a laugh. Old legends are usually like that. An oni lives up in a mountain and eats everyone who sees it, and yet somehow there's still a story about it. It's something like folklore. That's what the curse resembles. The question then is the victims. They weren't killed for displaying a false Hinasama, so then why did they have to die? Tokisaka takes out the donation records he took from the Shigusa shrine. The Hinagami family appears to be the key again here. Wait a second, on what basis do you make those claims? I'll explain that now. I don't intend to deny it at this point, but let me hear it anyway. Then let's first look at the year in which Kawase Sachiko-san died. Tokisaka flips through the donation records. In that year, the Hinagami family donated Tamaguchi to the Shigusa shrine. At the festivals on the years before and after, they only donated Tamaguchi fees. At first, I thought Tamaguchi were donated when there was a Miko, but I learned that I was mistaken when I looked at earlier years. Tokisaka says, taking out the older donation records. According to records, the Miko manifested for 4 years in the Taisho period, from 1921 to 1924, but in that time, Tamaguchi were only donated in 1922. The curse occurred in this year, right? Tokisaka looks to everyone in the room. No one responds. I don't know who it was who died, but I heard from Inspector Inui that a body was found with a clay doll that year. I believe it was an old man who lived in Hidarikina. Yuzuru speaks up. His stomach was split open, all his organs were removed, and that clay doll had been put inside him. It was right before I went to medical school in Kanizawa, so I remember it clearly. I see, so the victims aren't limited to women. Tokisaka nods, not looking particularly surprised. I'm guessing the curse only occurs when Tamaguchi are donated, and if that's the case, then naturally the Hinagami family has the right to decide when that is. Wait a second, Tokisaka-san. Masaki suddenly butts in. He's already been disinherited, so it's not like he has any obligation to defend them, but... What is it? Tokisaka tilts his head, not looking at all inconvenienced. It's a histrionic gesture of sorts. You might be deliberately avoiding this, but Zaizen-san died in 1929, and there was no Miko or Tamaguchi then. Precisely. Tokisaka's lips curl up ever so slightly. Thus, you cannot say that the Hinagami family has full authority over the curse. I suppose you're right in this case. It was quite troubling for all of you too, wasn't it? Tokisaka looks to everyone again. Again, no one responds. Even Yuzuru, who just answered one of his questions, has nothing to say. But there's confusion on his face. And the day after Zaizen-san died, Rika-san committed suicide. As for why that was, it's simple really. It was because this murder was something that the former Miko, Rika-san, committed all on her own. That's why there was no Tamaguchi offering either. Why? Are you really asking that? Everyone here knows the truth as well, do they not? The reason Rika-san murdered Zaizen-san. Why don't you tell us? Hidiomi alone speaks. It's quite simple. This is information I received from the police as well, but Zaizen-san was Shizuru-san's mistress. He had many children with other women, so it's not particularly... No, I suppose it is unusual, isn't it? At any rate, his wife Rika-san found out about this. And was jealous? Rika-san had already committed a murder referred to as the curse in 1922 as the Miko. People's hearts are fragile things. Once you've killed someone once, it's easy enough to do it again, like you have, Masaki, and myself as well. Masaki shudders. He feels the sensation of strangling Saya return to his hands. But Tokisaka as well? He then pats Masaki on the shoulder. I'm talking about the war. Right. It didn't even feel like killing people in those battles. He pointed his gun at people in order to survive. But perhaps that sensation is what killed Saya. Now, I have another reason to suspect that as well. Namely, Zaizen-san had no reason to be targeted by the curse. Reason? Yuzuru asked Tokisaka, Masaki having gone silent. Nothing to do with false Hinasamas, of course, but the reason the Hinagami family decided when the curse occurred. Tokisaka glares at So and Yuzuru. This settlement receives medicine from Hinagami Pharmaceuticals for free, correct? It's a big help since we've got so many elderly with high medical bills. And that's where the reason lies? Yuzuru asked Tokisaka. Everyone who was murdered by the curse in the past was taking Hinagami Pharmaceuticals drugs. Well, I imagine just about everyone in the settlement has taken some of their medicine.
Hinagami Pharmaceuticals is suspected of being involved in some less than legal human subject research before the war, during, and after it as well. Tokisaka looks down at Hideyomi. You were involved with the military before the war, I presume. They were quite accommodating. How should those words be interpreted? Masaki can't think of anything to say. He's never even heard of this human subject research. Was Tokisaka looking into it without telling him? During their treatment, or perhaps just before their treatment, you gave them unapproved drugs, right? Do you have any proof? You buried it all, didn't you? Calling it the curse. Cease these false accusations at once. Madoko's tone is harsh. I've got proof right here. Oh, guess who? Guess who it is? The door to the room opens with the voice. Inui should be in Tokyo, but... Inui-san, you returned? Just now, in fact. I had to head back to the prefectural police temporarily. Inui walks right up to Hideyomi's futon. Your son apologizes for not being able to come. I didn't expect him to. The autopsy report you wanted for Kawase Sachiko. After stepping back, Inui hands Tokisaka several pages of documents. Thanks for going to the trouble. Did you find anything? Just that Kawase Sachiko had a tumor growing in her uterus that was clearly the result of a side effect of the drug she was taking. Oh, Jesus. So the drugs actually can make you have tumors or cause tumors? Oh, God, that's not good. Kawase Sachiko had lost her husband in an accident before her death. In other words, she would have been undergoing fertility treatment long before she was killed. Then why did she have to be killed in that case? Because the Miko was there? You're probably right. She was chosen as a red herring to conceal the serious side effects of the drug she was taking, and to solidify the authority of the Miko and the Hinagami and Shigusa families. How ridiculous. Enough. Hideyomi interrupts Mariko. It's true that Hinagami Pharmaceuticals used the strength of the military to rise to power, and that we assisted them. Will you acknowledge the illegal clinical trials too, then? It was a long time ago, Hideyomi murmurs. The statute of limitations has passed for all the incidents that occurred here in the past. No one involved can be held accountable any longer. Tokisaka announces to everyone in the room. As for the curse, it's already been 15 years since the last one, but it is murder. Even if the killer can't be punished, the truth of it won't just disappear. Hideyomi-san, I don't know how deeply you were involved with the curse, but as you are the head of the Hinagami family, this is your sin. You're right. I don't know if my life alone will make up for it, but... Hideyomi closes his eyes. I will repent for my crimes in purgatory. Hideyomi breathes a long sigh. No! So stands and goes to Hideyomi's side. Yuzuru. He takes Hideyomi's pulse while Yuzuru shines a small light into his eyes. My dear. Mariko looks into Hideyomi's face. He's gone. So bows his head. Grandpa. Does this really happen so fast? He was just holding a conversation a moment ago. It's almost as if he merely gave up on living. He went on to repent for his crimes, just as he said in his last words. Ayato-kun, come here. So beckons him to his grandfather's side. No, I've been disinherited. You're still related by blood. Say your goodbyes. I understand. Masaki goes to Hideyomi's side. His grandfather doesn't budge, eyes still closed. He doesn't seem any different to Masaki than he was last night. But his grandfather's eyes will never open again. That much is clear. Masaki stands up when he sees Tokisaka leaving the room. Please excuse me. Bowing his head to his grandfather's body, he turns again to Tokisaka. Please wait, Tokisaka-san. Tokisaka stops before he gets outside the room. What is it? Tokisaka replies without even facing Masaki. You can be pretty cruel, can't you? I don't intend to stick up for my grandfather or anything, but you didn't have to corner him on his deathbed. He had to admit his crimes because he was on his deathbed, right? Christians can only go to heaven if they confess their sins and receive forgiveness from God, you know. We're Shinto. You think so? Well, in any case, it's a detective's job to be cruel. You should quit being my assistant if you don't like it.
Or, let's see, I guess you could make a worthless confession to Inspector Inui over there and get arrested. You're one to complain about cruelty, letting everyone cover up your crimes for you. Damn, he was already moving by the time he realized. Tokisaka holds his cheek. Will you trample everything in order to solve a case? Kensei comes out of the next room at Masaki's shout. Hey, Aito-kun. Yes, I will. Because I'm a detective. You can't expose other people's secrets without being a little cruel. It's my job. Tokisaka leaves without once looking at Masaki. Ow. I moan in the guest room at the Futami Inn, holding a cold towel to my left cheek. What happened? Yu asks, wringing out another towel above a bucket of water. I just meant to work him up a little. The bastard swung at me with no mercy. Rihito loses sight of his surroundings when he gets mad, so I'm not surprised, though he doesn't get angry that often. I'll keep that in mind next time. I remove the towel. The swelling hasn't really gone down yet. Here you go. Yu hands me the towel she just finished wringing. Thanks. Did the head of the Hinagami family pass? Yeah. Do you guys have Shinto funerals around here? I believe so. Since the ceremony is handled by the Shigusa Shrine, there aren't any temples around here anyway. You don't have any churches either, right? I guess not. Yu hesitates for a moment. Something Hideyomi-san said in his last moments bothered me a little. In Buddhism, you'd have Higan. In Shinto, you'd have Yomi. But he said purgatory. That's Catholic, isn't it? I can't imagine the Hinagamis are Christians, though. You're a detective, Tokisaka-san. Don't you have a theory already? It's less because I'm a detective and more because I've learned a lot about history from being around my parents. Takayama Yukan was part of the Maeda family, who ruled here, right? Until he went to the Philippines after Christianity was outlawed, yes. There's no direct link between this settlement and the Takayama Ukan, but there were a lot of members of the Maeda family who became Christian due to his influence. Perhaps someone among them created this hidden Christian village. Right. My grandmother and some others still try to hide that fact, but it's not that era anymore, is it? Yu grins. A long time ago, some lord named Shigusa something or other's daughter refused to renounce her religion, or so they say, so they fled here and established this village. So it started with a Shigusa priestess. Who were the Hinagamis then? The princess's elder brother from a different mother was called Hinagami something. He came here too, to protect her. I see, so that's why the Hinagamis rule the village. They say the Shigusa princess was a virgin birth. Of course, now I realize that's just a variation on the story of the Virgin Mary. That's how they made her seem divine and turned her into an object of worship. Someone untouchable, different from the common people. I see, it'd be the perfect way to protect the princess. If you think about it in the way these myths tend to go, or from looking at the current Hinagami family, the princess probably married her brother, the original Hinagami. That's a natural assumption if they're prioritizing their bloodline. And in the Edo period, there was probably a strong class system here. It wouldn't be unusual for them to consider it wrong for the upper and lower classes to mingle. I've heard that these hidden Christians tend to gradually move further away from the original doctrines the longer they stay hidden. I'd bet the Shigusa Shrine is a result of Christianity mixing with the local beliefs. It looks like that caused quite the change in their religion, though. Is there some sort of remnant of the hidden Christian legacy still in the settlement that would back up the story? Yu tilts her head. Does that have something to do with the incidents you're investigating? No, I'm just curious. She seems a little disappointed. There's a small cave in a section of the village called Kakarebina in the mountains that's off limits because it's a sacred location. Oh, that cave we saw before. From the stories of other hidden Christians, it wouldn't be unusual for there to be a statue or something of the Virgin Mary inside. I don't remember seeing anything like that there. You've been inside even though it's off limits? Well, you know, we used to play around there as kids. Yu looks down. Well, sounds like somewhere kids would play, I guess. Did you get in trouble? Yes, when they found out, that's when we started playing elsewhere, in an old cabin for making charcoal out in Hidarihina. I probably shouldn't tell her that's where we found Satsuki's limbs buried.
The oldest kid, Nao-chan, Nari-san, would find those places for us.
Kuriya Naori, huh? Now that you mention it, I met Kuriya Naori-san on New Year's.
Huh?
Yu raises her head. He's affiliated with an organization, working as something like a commissioned doctor for them. He seemed a bit too busy to come back here, though.
I see.
Someone in that organization apparently visited here quite often in the past. On the day of that festival before the war, was there a guest here from outside?
Before the war? When the Miko danced?
Yes, the festival when Kawase Sachiko-san died.
On that day, I think we had a few guests. What's the name of the person you're investigating?
I guess she's caught on that I'm investigating him. It was a man named Utsugi Keigo. I think he was probably in his mid-30s at the time.
Utsugi. That's an unusual surname. Utsugi. I don't remember seeing that name in the register.
Not even on other days?
No, I don't think he stayed here. We don't get all that many guests in the first place. They're usually regulars who come a few times a year.
Then he must not have been here. But it was the first festival with a Miko in a while. Shizuru said he thought it would be odd if Utsugi weren't here to see it. There's a possibility that he stayed somewhere other than the Futami Inn. Well, didn't they say that he didn't stay at the Futami Inn?
Oh, I do remember seeing an unfamiliar man in the settlement on that night, though. He wasn't a guest at the inn, so maybe...
What was he doing?
Well...
Yu looks down again.
If I tell you...
Don't worry. I would never reveal the source of my information.
Thank you.
Yu bows her head. It doesn't seem to be a work-related secret, but...
The unfamiliar man was walking with Nanako-san.
As in Sawashiro-san of the Korea Clinic?
Yes, that's right.
Yu averts her gaze.
There was a rumor about Nanako-san back then.
Rumor?
Yes, that she was selling her body, and that it was her father who forced her to do so.
Oh. Goddamn. Wow, what a terrible father. But that links them. I've confirmed now that there was a connection between Nanako's father and Utsugi. Utsugi probably came here and stayed with the Sawashiros. He had relations with Nanako there. I've heard about some abuse as well. Seriously, what a despicable father. This certainly isn't information I can readily share.
Right, but he proved that Nanako-san was innocent in that murder after she discovered the body.
So they were together on the night that the murder occurred. This isn't very comforting information, to be honest. I'll consider myself satisfied now that I've found out that Utsugi Keigo came to the settlement to observe the festival. Thank you for sharing this information with me.
No problem. I'll leave the water and towels, so please cool that bruise, alright? I'll excuse myself now.
Yu bows her head and leaves the room. Phew. I toss the towel I was holding to my face into the bucket and lie down on the tatami. I wonder if the thing haunting this settlement is gone now with Hinagami Hitoyomi's death. No, I doubt it's completely gone. I can't imagine my actions could take care of an obsession that's continued on here since the early Edo period. That's why I wanted to snap at least a few people out of it by playing the villain. But it looks like Hinagami Shizuru and Shigose Kensei's generation seems to be taking steps towards some kind of modernization. There are still some people fixated on their old way of life, such as Hinagami Mariko. For a former Miko like her could do nothing but accept her fate. I suppose any sort of change now is impossible. But time will solve that problem. All that's left is Aiko, whose whereabouts I'm still clueless about. I reach out and take the photos from the document sitting on the desk. The Satsuki who was with Aito during the festival. Is this Aiko? I can't imagine she still looks much like she does in this photo. When she left the settlement, she probably disguised herself so that her identity wouldn't be discovered. I don't know what happened to her after she went to Tokyo, but I guess all I can do is ask Kensei again. I should get some more details at least. The door to the room opens. When I raise my head, I see Misaki standing there looking uncomfortable. Tokisaka-san. You're letting the cold in standing there like that. Get inside. I sit up and point in the direction of the hibachi. Excuse me. Misaki closes the door and sits down next to the hibachi. I'm sorry for hitting you. Misaki bows his head. Don't worry about it. It was all true anyway. Well, my cheek's swollen, my jaw hurts, and I think you might have chipped a tooth. But don't worry about it. It sounds like you've got a grudge. Of course I do. Let me smack you 5 times. Isn't 5 a bit excessive? 1 wouldn't be enough? What if I mess up my one try and just hurt my hand? I don't think that would be my fault. Masaki glances at the photos I was just looking through. Shouldn't you be preparing for the funeral? There's nothing for me to do there. Are you staying here? That was my plan. You'd better pay for your lodging. I know. Masaki flips through the pictures. We're gonna look for Ayako-san when we get back to Tokyo, okay? Right. She might still be alive somewhere. Masaki gazes at Ayako in the picture. I don't know whether or not she's alive, but I want to make her whereabouts clear at least. A photo slips out of Masaki's hands. Sorry. Find something? No, not really, but... Huh? This picture's new. I haven't seen that one. A color picture is lying on the floor. That's right, it was in the ones Kuchiki-san gave me. It's the picture of Yukari and her friends at Inokashira Park. Come to think of it, I've been holding on to it since New Year's. They're drawing, huh? It's club stuff, right? Yukari's always liked drawing. She isn't a part of this group. If nothing had happened, she probably would have been with them, but... Masaki gasps, looking at the picture. What is it? I'm not going to give it to you. That's not it. Masaki stares straight at the picture of Yukiko. What, is Kaihara-san your type? Ugh. God damn it, why? Masaki takes out another picture, ignoring my teasing. It's the one of Sasuke, Ayako, at the festival. Look at this! Masaki points at Ayako's bangs. I can't really tell since it's in black and white, but is there something stuck to her hair? It's the hair clip, with the flower on it. I bought it for her at this festival. What, are you bragging now? I'm not. Keep that in mind. Then look at this one. Oh, shit. Well, I kind of figured that, Yukiko was related somehow. She looks almost exactly like Satsuki. She's got to be like her daughter or something. He shows me the picture of Yukiko he was just looking at. Or maybe that's... Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Because the one that lived was the one that, Aito had sex with. What if that's his daughter? Like, what if that's actually his offspring? Oh, that's crazy. She's got a hair clip on, huh? It's the same. It's the one I gave Satsuki. I doubt that. How long ago do you think that was? I know how long ago it was, but it wasn't something mass-produced in a factory. If you could see it up close. Okay, I got it. I'll ask Kaihara-san about it when we get back. Though I doubt it'll be that simple. Hey, did you tell reception you'd be staying here? Huh? No, not yet. Then go tell them. As for your room, well, I don't mind you using this one. Okay, I got it. Masaki leaves the room. Now then, while it's quiet, I should think about his stupid idea. He said that Yukiko was wearing the same hairpin he bought for Sasuke, Ayako. Is that possible? I believe it's definitely possible. Or, oh, okay, well maybe it's not. It's impossible. Uh-huh, sure. That's just unrealistic. But I can't just crush Masaki's enthusiasm. I guess I'll try to imagine that it's possible. If they're related somehow and Yukiko has something of Aiko's, they could be... unrelated strangers, mother and daughter. Yeah, I think it's definitely mother and daughter. Mother and child would be the most reasonable explanation, I guess. It's not impossible considering their ages. And Yukiko grew up in an orphanage, not knowing her real parents. If that's true, then it raises the possibility that she's Masaki's daughter too. Son of a... I've been pushing around a guy with a daughter who's Yukari's age? It'd be difficult to explain this. The door opens and Masaki returns, carrying a futon. So yeah, I think Yukiko might be your daughter, by the way. If you don't mind, we've brought another futon. Sure, I don't mind. I pushed the table away to make room. Young mistress, would you mind looking at this picture? Masaki shows the picture of the festival to you. Huh? I saw this last night. Don't you think the hairpin Sachin's wearing is the same one this girl has on? Masaki shows her the picture of Yukiko. Sorry, I'm not sure. I don't really remember Sachin's hairpin. I see. Wasn't Takayama-san selling those at the stand back then? If you ask him, you might find out. Or not, I suppose. Takayama-san, meaning the police officer? Yes, but I believe he was just tending the stand, so I doubt he knows anything about them. The cop sure isn't depended on around here. We'll go ask tomorrow morning. Well then, good night. Yu leaves after laying out our 2 futons. Guess we should get to bed. I suppose. I'm pretty tired from everything today. Masaki flops down onto his futon. I pull the hibachi toward me. Hey, no fair. Oh, shut it. I need this from my bruise to get better. Fine. You can hit me. Just please leave it in the middle. No deal.